Neo-Impressionism area now. It's a little out of my line, but it's still interesting. Neo-Impressionism is characterized by, you ever seen those drawings that are just dots? You know, just literally dots creating like a mosaic. It's a bit like that, you know? You kind of have this dappled effect on everyone as he is Signac in his neo-impressionist years as Maximilien Luce with Notre Dame there. And it's very interesting. And this is kind of the ultimate evolution of that. Again, this is Signac, who was very involved in the neo-impressionist movement. And then we have it's very, you know, nymphs jumping around. So into post-impressionism now. We have Paul Gauguin, who, as erudite people will know, was a contemporary and erstwhile friend of Van Gogh. He started out, he was a sailor, then a stockbroker apparently for a while, and then he became a painter. And you can see the clear impressionist influence here. He was looking a little bit deeper into the darkness, I think. This, of course, is before he went to Tahiti. I absolutely love this, and I could not actually tell you why. Fascinating. Two of Gauguin's most famous pieces of art. He went to Tahiti in the late 1800s, which is quite a cool time to be in Tahiti, if you ask me. This one is Vairumati A, which literally means in Polynesian, her name is Vairumati. And this one. It's called Elor de la Cour, the Golden Skin. I'd imagine anyone would have a very good time in Tahiti, but he apparently had a very good time. Gauguin is, of course, primarily known as a painter. To be honest, most of it's a little out of my line, but you have to respect the art. He also dabbled in sculpture. He made really quite a few pieces, not particularly sophisticated pieces, a lot of the time. But then you have Madame Schulnecker here, which is really rather accomplished. And that was 1877, that's before he went to Tahiti. This is quite fun. It is not Egyptian, the French sculpture by Auguste Quint. It was made for the Salon in 1865. He must have read Ozymandias, because the sculpture is of a vulture sitting on the ruined head of a pharaoh. So he must have read up on his Shelley. The first time today I've actually needed the sunglasses. This is the Salofit in the original Gare d'Orsay, the train station. It was designed as a function room, so weddings and feasts and all that kind of thing. It was very neoclassical, designed to embrace the opulent town. Was very popular in Parisian middle classes in the late 19th century for events. The mirrors definitely help with the light. Right, so I'm on the second floor, and it's the terrace of sculptures. And as people who know me well will tell you, I'm much more of a sculpture guy than a paintings guy. And I'm headed towards the Terrasse de Rodin. Now I am going to the Musée Rodin later, but can't miss it, of course. This is Oedipus at Colonna. Late 19th century. Oedipus, by the time he was at Colonna, of course, was quite blind, which is why you can see that his empty eye sockets and her eyes looking down at his epic beard. You know what, I didn't actually know she was here. This is the fallen caryatid under her stone, which was in the Musée Rodin last time. It's one of my very favourite sculptures by Auguste Rodin because it's depicting a statue who was holding up her stone like in ancient Greek architecture and art, and the weight of it has slowly crushed her. And she's crouching down with a sad and resigned and wistful expression, but she's still holding the thing up. It's like she's carrying all the sorrows of the world. And just got a bit emotional there. Yeah. Rodin intended it as, behind me is The Gates of Hell, a huge piece that he was working on for such a long time and never finished. He was never satisfied with it. He was still working on it when he died, and she, the caryatid here, was supposed to be up, I think it's like the top right hand side of the Gates of Hell. I absolutely love that sculpture. Again, another one I didn't expect to see here. Le Penseur, the thinker. It looks like bronze, but it is actually just patinated plaster. According to most sources, Rodin has intended it to be King Minos from the vision of Dante, the Divine Comedy. But again, he was unsatisfied with the narrative, and modern interpretations indicate that it could be Minos, it could be Dante himself, or it could indeed be Rodin himself. Makes you think. And I just had a flashback to the late 90s. I remember one of Bill Clinton's presidential photos, and it had that in the background, and I was laughing my ass off. How pretentious you can be like, hi, I'm the President of America, and anyway. So this is very cool. This is Eve After the Fall by Eugène de la Planche. You can clearly see Michelangelo's influence because, and I've just read this, I didn't actually know this before, de la Planche studied Michelangelo and his work after he had received a huge grant for winning a salon in the late 19th century. It's a fantastic sculpture. I love her eyes, and you see the apple at her feet and the serpent curled around the tree, but she just looks so regretful and disconsolate. Of course, this was before the the advent of feminism and the dislike by some, including myself, for blaming women for original sin. But still. Right, so I just got out to the Musée d'Orsay after 3 hours. I'm absolutely shattered now. I'm going to try and get a table at Café Louise, which my parents strongly recommend. Where my dad fell in love with seared steak tartare, apparently. So I do like these sculptures, though. It's meant to be linking the world. We have seated, proud women from all 6 of the inhabited continents. We have Oceania, South America, North America, Africa, Asia, and Europe at the end. It is pretty cool, actually. I kind of like it. Of course, there was no one on Antarctica at the time. Good evening, friends. So it's just gone 5 o'clock. I've just finished eating. I went to the Café Louise to find that it was closed at weekends, which seems counterproductive to me, but what do I know? So I went to the Café Blanc next door, had an amazing beef bourguignon. I did, however, make a rather annoying discovery, which is that the Musée Rodin is closing at 5:45. I can't even get there in time, let alone enjoy it. So I'm going to do that tomorrow on my way to Versailles. However, that does allow me a little bit of time to talk about the Louvre a little bit. So, the Louvre is the largest museum in the world. It's also the most visited museum in the world. 10 million people visited it in 2018, and it hovers between the 8 and 10 million people per year mark, which places it ahead of the Vatican. It is, as I mentioned before, just enormous. The reason for that is, it's the Louvre Palace. Construction began in the early 12th century, medieval times, and continued, of course. You can still, in the lower levels of the Louvre, you can still see the medieval walls, foundations, a few bits and pieces like that. But then Francis I designated it as the regnal residence, as the residence for the royal family. And That brought in money, that brought in art. They began collecting artwork. However, in 1642, I think, Louis XIV, the Sun King, and a very powerful man, decided to relocate to Versailles. And that slowed down restoration works, expansion works, because of course the Palace of Versailles needed building. As everyone knows, Louis XIV led a rather opulent lifestyle, and we think that his reign was instrumental in being one of the cornerstones of the French Revolution a century later. But he opened this place after he had moved to Versailles to display the royal collection, about 500 pieces, something like that. Skip forward to the mid to late 1700s, and we have the French Revolution. Things have been building, so Louis XVI had added to the collection, but then the French Revolution happened, and that's when this place became a public museum for the people, you understand. And that continued, really. Then we have Napoleon declaring himself emperor, of course, and he was a noted looter. I think I mentioned in both my Berlin video and the video this morning from across the way there. He walked off with the quadriga. Oh, nice guy behind me doing a 360. Cool. But he was well known from Egypt all the way up for nicking a bunch of stuff and bringing it back. The British, of course, are not innocent of such things either. And so the collection kept expanding and expanding. After Waterloo, a lot of the countries from which they had been taken petitioned the British, as the victors, of course, to repatriate a lot of the art. That worked in some cases, not in others. For example, there are two statues, the Nile and the Tiber. The Nile was returned to Rome, the Tiber was not. It's still in the collection here. Today, the Louvre has 500,000 pieces, and I think something in the region of well over 250,000 pieces of art on display in the permanent collection. They include, of course, the Mona Lisa herself, Winged Victory, and as of the late 1800s, Venus de Milo, which is very serious. So it is an incredible building, absolutely massive and sprawling, and really very beautiful. That is riding very, very low. That must be a heavy ass payload. Being a little circumspect here, but check behind me. Rollerblade police. I don't even know where to begin. Good evening, friends. So I'm sitting on the banks of the Seine, just reading a book. I would have had a cigar, but I appear to have lost my cigar cutter, which is a little annoying. But these are small gripes. I've had a very good day.
Mama, don't treat me this way. Well, I'll be back on my feet someday. Don't care if you do, so it's understood. You got no money, you're just ain't no good. I guess if you said so, I have to pack my things and go. That's right, hit the road, Jack. Won't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. Won't you come back no more?